Gefechtsstation.
Greetings, folks. Anila Horm here with a World of Warships replay. Today we are featuring a match from Sticky Green, who is in the premium Tier 8 German battleship Tirpitz. He is in a standard battle on Neighbors, and there is one Tier 6 aircraft carrier for each team, and you'll also notice there is a division comprised of Jimmy Jazz and myself on Sticky's team. Sticky's build is what I would characterize as mostly a secondary build. He does take the Concealment Expert to maximize the concealment of his ship, and he also takes Demolition Expert, which will improve the chance for fires set by his secondaries. Now, Jim and I had asked for this replay from Sticky because he is definitely the star of the show and is going to show us that this old ship that was introduced actually back in September of 2015, and it was the first German ship introduced in the game. This vessel is very potent, formidable ship to deal with. It has been probably gotten a little stale because there's a lot of new lines out and there's a lot of new ships that are available. And so I think that the rate at which this ship is played is probably declined, but she certainly has held up pretty well over the years. Sticky is moving to the east flank to support that side, and we already have an immediate problem in our team with a lemming that's forming toward the west, including an allied Gneisenau that was actually farther east than Sticky was, and even the Gneisenau is moving westward, and that's going to leave Sticky as the only battleship on this flank. And to me, it's very important in standard battle that you have a fairly equal representation of both ship classes and ship counts on each flank, so that you don't have either flank likely to get overrun easily or have too many ships committed to one side and not be able to respond effectively to a threat on another side from the opposing team. And Sticky is working here from some range. German battleships obviously are not known for their high accuracy by any stretch of the imagination, but right now it's a good idea that he not go charging too quickly toward the islands, one, so that he doesn't get ambushed, and two, that he doesn't overextend, because right now we don't have total clarity on where all of the opposing ships are. We do see a fairly large mass of ships now that are sort of consolidated in their cap or sort of on the southwest side of their cap, and this will allow Sticky to move in a little closer. The opposing Farragut was spotted, and he's already had most of his health taken. So one of the key potential destroyer threats, or the only destroyer threat, may be taken care of here pretty quickly. We do, again, have this lemming train that's forming on the west side. One thing that was very frustrating for Jim and me in this battle, being on the west flank, was that we had these three battleships, not including the Gneisenau and obviously not including Sticky here, that really kind of went around the perimeter of the map and in some sense kind of followed Jim in the Anshan, and they weren't really like pushing in as battleships to be able to provide a lot of supporting gunfire, which is a little bit frustrating. But unfortunately, that tends to be a common practice we see. Okay, now the opposing Farragut has shown up again. He's very low health. I think that Sticky probably would have fired on the Farragut if he had seen him earlier, but fortunately the Farragut is taken out by the Nueve de Julio, who had good heads up to get that destroyer out of the way, and so now the opposing team has no destroyers whatsoever. This Prince Eugen is turning broadside, and this is going to be a close shot. Is he going to run into the island? I don't remember. Or he slows down anyway. Unfortunately, Sticky doesn't get a very good salvo here. Now, the Prince Eugen, being a Hipper class, does carry a turtleback, and it is less vulnerable to Citadel hits at close range. Although here at around 8-9 kilometers, it still would be subject to a Citadel hit fairly easily, I think, being this broadside to 380 millimeter guns. But he doesn't even need to get a Citadel. He just lands 4 overpens and takes out his first ship in the game. So the opposing team has now just lost 2 ships, and Sticky has come under aerial attack from the opposing carrier. He was able to shoot down one plane, and took some damage, but not too bad. There he is shooting down some more planes as the opposing carrier is moving in. Tirpitz is not known for having very strong AA. Her sister ship, the Bismarck, in game has much better AA than the Tirpitz. Obviously, the Tirpitz has torpedo systems, so it does kind of give up that benefit of AA for the torpedo systems in some ways. But this being a Tier 6 aircraft carrier, I'd suspect that Sticky didn't feel particularly threatened by the opposing carrier. Sticky here is having to work with some semi-concealment so he doesn't get focused. He could put himself into a crossfire if he ended up sailing more in open waters here. There's sort of a ring of opposing ships that we can see on between the northeast and the north side of the map, centered around those islands. And if Sticky were to kind of come out in the open, that would immediately put him into a crossfire. And he's making a good choice here not to come out too far, and mainly just trying to keep these opposing ships, the cruisers and so on, at bay. Here he does land a Citadel on the opposing Pensacola, or one of the two opposing Pensacolas. And then there's another opposing Pensacola that's coming around the corner here, or may do so. And Sticky is looking to line up another shot on that ship if he does end up showing himself. Here's the Pensacola. Secondaries are going off. Again, Sticky does not have manual secondaries, so these aren't going to be quite as accurate as they would be if he had manual secondaries, but he is still going to do some fairly substantial damage with his secondaries in this battle. It's kind of a disappointing salvo on the Pensacola. He is going to send out some torpedoes here in case the Pensacola decides to continue to push in against him, which I'm assuming this Pensacola player knows better than to do against a Tirpitz with significant secondaries and torpedo systems, but it looks like he is going to turn back in. And Sticky is not able to land much more than overpens at this point. I know this has been a common complaint among battleship players in the last probably years, that they feel like there's been a proliferation of overpens. Here he does land a Citadel, naturally on the last salvo. But yeah, there's been, in my opinion, a perception that battleships are experiencing far more overpens in game than they have historically. There's been perceptions of either changes in armor structure or aiming mechanics or some aspect of the game, maybe even unannounced, that has resulted in more overpens. I don't know. I generally have had pretty good success with battleships. To me, it comes down more to RNG and aiming. And I don't know that I've necessarily seen that the penetration characteristics have changed much. That was a pretty nice salvo. That was a very tight grouping for a Tirpitz of 4 shells to land all 4 as penetration and score almost 12,000 in penetrating damage against this King George. Maybe exacting a little bit of revenge here for the Scharnhorst, but he's going to get some more guns in on this broadside battleship. Again, looking at the tactical situation, we have this very tight cluster of Allied ships that are on the far west flank, including 3 battleships that frankly are just wildly out of position and not really able to contribute much. Although frankly at this point our team has a huge point lead. We have eroded the opposing team's west flank pretty much entirely, except for an Edinburgh that I will end up engaging myself in the Dallas shortly here and later in the battle. But right now, again, Sticky is the only battleship on this flank. We do have the Allied Nelson that is moving up to help support him there. Sticky has now actually earned Confederate, and we're not even 10 minutes into the battle. So a representation of the amount of damage he's had to do and how he's had to spread it around the the flank here from the opposing team. I think Sticky's making a very smart choice here. Again, he's keeping an island between himself and the opposing Massachusetts so that he doesn't put himself into a crossfire between the Massachusetts, the Bayern, and the King George. The Tirpitz is a very durable, very tanky ship. Obviously, the German battleships have that reputation, but they will succumb to crossfire and heavy focus fire like any other ship. So I think he's making a smart choice here to limit the number of opponents that it can engage him. There he gets his third kill by taking down the Bayern. Now getting some more shells in on the King George. Change his target here to the Pensacola since the King George is moving behind the island. Couple of overpens, that's it. So our team on the west side is just kind of moving up and putting pressure on the cap. Myself in the Dallas side, you can see me that I'm in the Delta 3 sector, Delta 4 sector, and frankly I'm overextended, but at this point our team had a huge advantage, and the carrier takes me out, but I'm able to, or actually Jim took out the Edinburgh. The Edinburgh was very low health. So I've just gone down, and Jim is now going to move toward, and the Anshan is going to move towards their cap. So there's very little in the way of opposition now on the west side. We now have spotted the carrier. And then after he puts out a salvo or two here on the carrier, Sticky is going to engage the opposing Massachusetts, who is starting to inch toward him. Now again, Sticky's being very smart here to not leave himself exposed to the King George and the Pensacola that are now moving south down the 10 line. And Sticky is going to focus his engagement here on the carrier and now the Massachusetts. It takes a pretty good salvo from the Massachusetts, but nothing he can't weather. Now, I imagine the Massachusetts player at this point knows the Tirpitz, or I expect he should know that the Tirpitz carries torpedoes, and he's now wandered into torpedo range. And this is the point where Jim and I realize that this is going to be the guy that carries us to victory, Sticky and his Tirpitz. I thought the way that he baited the Massachusetts in was really excellent. He's stayed bowed in here, took relatively little damage there, and now is able to turn and send away his torpedoes. So short of basically the Massachusetts has committed himself, and he's going to end up taking torpedoes no matter what happens now. And Sticky is able to take him down. Now he's going to get some shells off at the Pensacola. I think he was looking to try to get a double strike here. I don't remember whether he did, but he does have 4 kills now. Not quite. He just gets a couple of overpens. Up to 144,000 in damage. And is he going to get the kill here? Yes, he does. There is Kraken unleashed. So now he can turn his attention to the King George. So he's up to 5 kills. There's 2 opponents left, the King George and the aircraft carrier. Obviously, he doesn't have to be concerned about being in a crossfire situation. Looks like the King George is focused on the Nelson that moved back to the west north flank to help support him. Sticky is going to take a torpedo here from the opposing carrier, but the torpedoes on the carriers after the carrier rework aren't too threatening. In fact, we can see one sort of side benefit of the not having manual secondaries is that your secondaries will go off on both sides of your ship. So he's able to get secondaries on both his port and starboard side. He gets a close quarters on the King George and is now going to move to try to secure the kill on the aircraft carrier. Now, Jim is in the Anshan, and he is located at the Bravo 5 quadrant, or Bravo 6 quadrant at this point, and he will actually detect the aircraft carrier. Now, at this point, the game is pretty well locked up. There are simply too many ships for the opposing aircraft carrier to take down the opposition, and there's no way that he's going to be able to cap. So this game is won. But clearly the star of the show here is Sticky. He's racked up almost 170,000 in damage. He is coming under pretty constant air attack now because he is among maybe the key threat. Now we're starting to see fire coming from Jim and the Anshan onto the aircraft carrier. And at about this point, I had told Jim that we probably should let Sticky get the kill because he, again, had held off the entire flank, prevented our team from getting overrun on the northwest side. And since he's been coming under pretty constant air attack for the last few minutes, thought we should let him get the kill. So Jim's going to hold his fire here in just a moment if he hasn't already. And then Sticky is going to come around and finish off the aircraft carrier for the win. So great job, Sticky. We were very impressed with your performance here. This ship still really has it, and he did a really terrific job. So thank you very much, Sticky, for agreeing to let us showcase this match. I certainly hope everybody enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Unfortunately, I don't have the team score because I forgot to get the screenshot for that. But without any controversy, Sticky definitely comes in top XP for the entire game, and rightfully so. So again, hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.